Let's talk about civil disobedience. In Daniel chapter 1, Daniel and his three friends were able to obey God and not eat food that would defile them, because they stood firm against breaking God's laws. In chapter 3, Daniel's three friends stood firm against breaking God's laws, and they were thrown into a fiery furnace. They chose to trust God and die, but God delivered them. In chapter 6, Daniel refuses to stop his daily routine of praying to God, ends up being thrown into the lion's den. Again, he chose God over the law of the land. And praise God, he delivered his men, and he delivered Daniel. But needless to say, there are no guarantees that God would save them from death. When is civil disobedience right or wrong? Romans chapter 13, verses 1 to 7 says, "Every person is to be in subjection to the governing authorities. For there is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. Therefore, whoever resists authority has opposed the ordinance of God, and they who have opposed will receive condemnation upon themselves. For rulers are not a cause of fear for good behavior, but of evil. Do you not have no fear of authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For it is a minister of God to you for good. But if you do what is evil, be afraid. For it does not bear the sword for nothing. For it is a minister of God to avenge those who bring wrath on the one who practices evil. Therefore it is necessary to be in subjection, not only because of wrath, but also for conscience sake. For because of this you also pay taxes. For rulers are servants of God, devoting themselves to the very thing. Surrender to all what is due them. Tax to whom tax is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor." Ephesians chapter 6 tells children to obey their parents. In Acts chapter 5 verse 29 it says we must obey God rather than man. And in Daniel 1 and chapter 3 and Daniel chapter 6, there was no way they could obey God and obey the king at the same time. So civil disobedience is only acceptable to God when we are commanded to disobey God. Now these three men and Daniel respectfully disobeyed King Nebuchadnezzar so that they could obey God. They didn't try to get others to disobey, and they didn't call attention to their disobedience. They showed no resistance to the penalty of punishment. And they left the results in God's hands. Matthew 10 verse 28 says this, "Do not fear those who kill the body, but are unable to kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. So fear God more than men."